Hello. So we are discussing how to do trigonometric integrations, and we have discussed how to solve a problem when you have a sine to the power m and cosine to the power n, and then when one of those powers is odd, you can just do a U substitution method. Now what happens if you have the powers of sine and cosine and they're all even, none of them is odd? So let's say an example, and let's do the simplest one, the first one. So let's talk about like sine square theta, d theta. So no cosine at all, just one sine, but it has a even power. Okay? So see, you cannot really do anything if you just see a sine square. You cannot do a U substitution because there is no cosine. Now you can change sine square into cosine square, but then still it's 1 minus cosine square. You cannot do anything, right? Which one will be a U? And where is the du then, right? So that's the problem. If you had an odd power like sine cube, you could pull out a sine. That will be your du, and the rest of it you can change into cosine and make it U. That can be done. So these identities will not work if you have, well, by these I mean the identity involving sine and cosine, will not work if you have all powers even. What you need is another set of identities of the half angle formula. So, sine square theta and cosine square theta can be also used in another type of identity, like I said, the half angle formula. So cosine square is 1 plus cosine of 2 theta over 2. So what is happening here, if you start with the angle theta and it's even powered cosine square, then that angle gets doubled, 2 theta, and it's 1 plus cosine of 2 theta. And for sine square, guess what? It is 1 minus of cosine of 2 theta. You don't change it to sine. For sine square, it's still cosine of 2 theta, but 1 minus over 2. So that's the formula for the half angle for cosine square and sine square. And then one other, the double angle formula. If you look from this side, cosine 2 theta equals, that's the double angle formula. So I also told you this other double angle formula for sine. What is sine of the double angle 2 theta? That is 2 sine theta cosine theta. Okay, so that's another set of identities that we will need to use in some cases. Okay, so what do we do here? We cannot do any U substitution because all powers even. What you do is you have to remember this formula and apply it. So it's a sine square, so it will be 1 minus cosine, double the angle, the theta becomes 2 theta. So what happens? How does it help us? See, before we had a difficulty solving because it has a power other than 1. It's a square. Now there is no power. So pull out the 1/2, and then you have to integrate 1 minus just simple cosine. See? So how to integrate 1? Well, that's easy, that's theta. How to integrate cosine? Not cosine square, not cosine cube, just cosine. We know how to integrate cosine. Its answer is, antiderivative is sine. So it's sine. Sine of, not theta, remember, right? This is a U sub, a little U sub happening here. So sine of 2 theta, and then divide by 2. And you're done. Okay? This is the answer. You don't have to go any farther, but I am going to show you one more step because in the next section, when we do trig substitution, you will probably have to go one more step here. Okay? So, guess what I'm going to do? See, sine 2 theta has a formula here. I'm going to use that formula. So this becomes 2 sine theta cosine theta over 2. And this 2 cancels out. So you can simplify a little bit. Like I said, in this problem you don't need to, but later in a different type of problem you will see how we need to simplify this so that we don't have to deal with the double angle but the single angles. Okay? And so 1/2 theta minus sine theta cosine theta. Let's see. So that's another way of writing the same answer. So remember, okay, if you have sine square, or just cosine square, guess what? You'll just use this one for cosine square. If you have a combination sine square, cosine square, you just have to use both of these multiplied together, distribute, and go from there. Okay? So if all even powers, you have no other choice, these are the ones to work with, the cosine square and the sine square formula.